Hi everybody, it is me, the Foreseer, and I am back with my 3-year Lociversary updates. My 3-year Lociversary was actually in July, but as you're getting to know, I'm a little bit late sometimes. So I wanted to come back and give you all a full video and just go into some of the pieces that you all have asked me over the last couple years. So let's get to it. So let's start with prepping my hair for retightening. I like to make sure that my hair is washed and stretched before I lock. I do this because number one, if it's stretched, it makes it easier for the needle to pass through my root, as opposed to if the ends are thicker or bulbing. So I do try to make sure that there are no bulbs at the end of my locks, because it does make the retightening at my roots a little difficult for the needle to pass through if the ends of my hair are too thick. I make sure it's washed and clean. That way I am locking fresh, clean, new growth and it gets rid of any of the debris that might be on the scalp. My setup is really simple. I have a mirror behind me and I have a mirror in front of me. They are not huge, they are small, very simple mirrors, and on occasion I'll use the monitor of my computer when I'm working on the grid, when I'm trying to check in to make sure my grid is still intact. When I get to the front of my hair, I don't need any mirrors at all, so I really just need a mirror or some sort of monitor to mirror what I'm doing when I am locking. So very simple. I've seen some ladies with some amazing setups. My setup is so simple and it literally travels with me. I don't lock my hair in the same place. I'll lock sitting on the couch, I'll lock at my desk, so I keep the mirrors pretty small, so it's just easy for me to move around. You'll also see here that my nails are painted. I usually will take off any nail polish I have before I start retightening, because sometimes your hair can get caught in between the nail polish and your nails and it can cause tugging. So I usually don't have my nails done, but I did do my nails pretty close to doing this, so I didn't have any issues with my nail polish getting caught in my hair. But just kind of a note, I usually do not have my nails done when I'm retightening my hair, because they do get caught, my locks do get caught in my nail polish sometimes. Now, if you've been watching my videos from the beginning, you'll know that when I first started retightening, I was doing a 2-point or 3-point rotation. I have switched back to doing a 3-point or 4-point rotation. What I noticed is that I was getting a lot more holes in my locks when I was doing the 2-point rotation, and I do want my locks to be firmer. I originally was doing the 2-point because I did want them to have a little bit of shrinkage, a little bit of pull to them, but as time went on, I just noticed that when my locks are firmer, when I'm doing a 4-point rotation or a 3-point rotation, I have less holes and my locks are way more sturdy. So I did switch to a 3 or 4-point rotation. I like to make sure that my grid is still looking good and intact every retightening I do. However, I spend a lot more attention on my grid, maybe 2 or 3 retightenings out of the year, just to make sure that it's super crispy and the lines are still pretty sharp. So my grid is doing great. It's still thriving 3 years in, and I haven't really done any styles that involve a lot of parts. I might do that this year, like maybe some cornrows. We'll figure it out, but I do want to be able to utilize the grid, since I have it. So stay tuned. I will be trying some new styles coming down the pipeline soon as well. So let's get to the daily maintenance of my hair. The day-to-day maintenance of my hair is super easy. I do make sure that I'm running my hands through my locks every day to make sure that none of the locks are forming together or growing together. So I do spend some time at my roots, just making sure I can have my fingertips run through the length of my hair from the tip to the bottom. Once my hair is dried and stretched, if I choose to stretch it, I really don't have to manipulate my hair much at all. I sleep with a satin cap or a satin scarf around my hair, and sometimes I'll put curlers on it if I want some curls at the ends at night. So between washes, there's literally very little I have to do to my hair. I use Very little oil. I only use the oil usually on my scalp to prevent dryness, which usually is only an issue in the wintertime. Also, I do not use a lot of edge gels. I'm allergic to a lot of it, and it just irritates my scalp to no end. So I try to avoid using additional products in my hair. The only products that I really put in my hair are a little bit of oil, like I said, and every now and then some hairspray if I'm trying to hold my curls. So how do my locks feel? I get this question a lot, and people are really surprised when they touch my hair and they're like, oh my gosh, your locks are soft. So my locks are pretty soft. They do feel a little harder or firmer when I am due for a wash, but outside of that, the locks are pretty soft. The ends are loose. I keep my ends loose for a couple reasons. Mostly my retightening, because I mentioned I can't have the ends getting thicker than the roots, because then the needle cannot pass through the root of my hair when I'm doing the retightening. I wash my hair about every 2 to 3 weeks, and I use Love, Beauty, and Planet. I really like how their, I think it's called Muru butter scent smells. So I use their conditioner and I use their shampoo. But I'm also open if you all have any sulfate-free shampoos and conditioners that you all like to use that smell really good. Let me know, because I'm always interested, especially if it's a Black-owned product. I would definitely be interested in checking them out. I like their products because they're very light, but they still do leave a nice scent. So my locks always smell really good, but that's on account of the conditioner and shampoo that I use. So after 3 years being locked, one other question I tend to get is, do I prefer being locked or do I prefer being a loose natural? Now, my journey as a loose natural was amazing. I went through several big chops, was able to grow my hair out really long, and I'll share some videos later in the video, or some pictures later in the video of when I was a loose natural. It was awesome. It was a whole journey. It was a beautiful journey. And now that I'm locked, I've got to say, I love this. I really love it. I don't know if I love it more. I probably do, but you know, it's still kind of new to me, and my locks are still forming, and every year they look a little different. And so right now I would say I love it. I love my hair. I love the way it looks. I love what I'm able to do with it. I like the maintenance. And I actually really enjoy retightening my hair. I know that sounds strange, but if you're the type of person who knits or crochets, you get it. It's like completing a blanket every other month. And so I did just want to mention that I love my locked hair. I wish I had done it earlier. So I guess I really can say that I do prefer my hair locked over loose, especially because I can still do a lot of the same styles that I did when I was a loose natural now that I am locked. Another question I tend to get a lot is, how many locks do I have? When I started the journey, I had about 750 locks. I combined about 6 locks, and then the locks in the back of my hair in the kitchen areas formed. So between the locks that I combined, the locks that I repurposed that may have slid out, I still have 750 locks. The number went up a little, it went down a little, and now I've settled right back where I started at the beginning, 750 locks. So now we get into the juicy part of today's video, which is what I was told would happen to my locks with them being so tiny versus what actually happened. So let's get in. So I was told that if I wanted my locks to be this small, number one, it was going to be an atrocious amount of money to get them installed. I think I was quoted over $10,000, like well over $10,000. Also, I was told they're not sustainable, that they would just slide out of my hair, and it would just be a big mess. None of that happened. My locks are very tiny, but when I was installing, I made sure that I had enough hair at the root of my locks to sustain the length of the lock. And I was really deliberate about that when I was installing my locks in the very beginning. On top of that, I have mentioned before that I chose the size of my lock because that is the size of the majority of my coils. My coils are about the same width as the width of my locks, and I wanted to mimic the shape of what the coils that grow from my head look like. So I do believe that with what is called the 4C hair texture, it worked to my advantage in having these super tiny locks. The texture, the density of my hair, and the thickness, I think all contributed to me being able to prove that super tiny locks can be sustainable. So that was one of the first things that I was told. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You know me, I'm a bit of a rebel. I did it anyway. And I followed the rules that I thought would make sense for me. And my locks, 3 years in, are thriving. The next thing I was told is that I would not be able to maintain my locks by myself. That it would be too much of a lift for me to be able to maintain my hair by myself. That also did not work out to be true, but I must caution, I do religiously retighten my hair every other month. I do not allow my new growth to get past maybe 1.25 inches at its maximum. Whether it's been a month and every other month or not, as soon as my hair reaches over 1 inch of hair, I know within the next week or two, I'm gonna need to be retightening it. So because I have stayed so faithful with my retightening, I think that also contributes to the fact that my locks have been able to maintain and thrive even with them being so small. Also, I knew that maintaining my hair wouldn't really be a problem because when I was a loose natural, every other month I was doing box braids or twists or cornrows. And so I was spending a lot of time with my hands in my hair. And when you add in the washing and the detangling, you sum it all up, it was a lot. So I knew I probably wouldn't have a problem retightening my hair on a schedule because it was kind of the schedule I was on when it came to my loose natural hair anyway. So I will caution ladies who are looking at doing super tiny locks, if you're not the kind that is already into spending long periods of time doing your hair, that you make sure you have a really good loctician already lined up. In the past 3 years, I have retightened my hair a total of 18 times. So that works out to 6 times a year. And 6 times a year doesn't really seem like a lot, right? So only 18 times within the last 3 years, and it's well worth it. Every time I retighten my locks, I do make sure I'm checking for holes. I do make sure that I'm repairing any locks. As time has gone and my locks have matured, I do not have to do as much repairing. So the amount of time that it takes me to retighten my locks has actually decreased instead of increasing. I was worried that as my hair got longer, that my retightenings would take longer, and actually the opposite has occurred. It takes me less time to retighten my locks now that I don't have to do so much fixing. And I did mention earlier that I left my ends open. So with my ends open, they're just kind of staying open at this point. I do have to go in and fix them every now and then, but like I said, the amount of repairing I've had to do has gone down drastically as my locks have matured over the last couple years. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say my locks are fully matured because, like I said, I do keep my ends loose, but you'll notice a difference in how my hair looks now and what it looked like when I originally started. I'll drop in some photos a little bit later. The next thing I was told is that conditioning my locks would make them slip out. Now, this is actually a really good point to keep in mind, but it didn't stop me. It didn't stop me from using conditioner. I just came up with new rules for using conditioner and locks. So what I do is I dilute my conditioner. I add a lot of water to it so it's runny. With it runny, I then add it to the ends of my hair, and then I work my way up. So I add some conditioner to my hands, and then I run it down the length of my hair, and then I make sure I wash it all out so there is no residual conditioner left in my hair. That is an important note, because this can happen. It's a real thing where if you use too much conditioner, especially in your earlier lock days, your locks can literally just slide right out of your hair. So be very cautious with conditioner, but this is how I've been able to use conditioner while being locked and not having any issues. And also, I like the using conditioner because it does leave a really nice scent to your hair afterwards as well. So it is a point to consider. Be very mindful about the amount of conditioner you're using or how you're using it. And this is the method that I've used for being able to use conditioner in my hair, diluting it and using it very gently and making sure it is all washed out. The next thing that I was told is that my edges would all fall out if I locked my hair. That's not actually something to laugh about, so it's not funny. So I take it back, because tension alopecia is real, and you have to be very careful about the amount of stress and tension that you're putting on your hair. So I actually just left my edges out completely. I did not lock my edges at all. Sometimes they're twisted, as you see right now. They are not. I was just too lazy to twist them. And so you can also circumvent that issue by simply not locking your edges and being very mindful about the amount of tension that you have going on in your locks. The next thing that I was told is absolutely do not use any heat in your locks. Do not flat iron, don't blow dry, don't do it. And this is also something that is quite cautionary and good to listen to. Again, I'm a little bit of a rebel, so I tested the limits. What I noticed with using heat in my hair is that, number one, you have to be very careful about the amount of heat you're putting in your hair. I concentrate any heat I'm using in my hair on my ends, which are loose, okay? The rest of the hair doesn't really need any heat, or very light, just to kind of stretch the locks out. Heat in your locks, depending on your texture, depending on the size of your locks, all of that needs to be added into your consideration. And I always say I would check with a professional before you think about using any heat in your locks. I'm just being completely honest with you all about how I create the look that you're looking at. I'm not going to tell you, oh, I just woke up like this, I didn't know. I'm going to let you know exactly what I did. If I added heat, I'm going to tell you that I added heat, because if you're trying to achieve a certain look, I want you to have all of the information as to how I achieved it. So, although I was cautioned that all my hair would fall out if I use a flat iron, that did not happen at all. So let's take it back a little bit. So this first picture is a couple months before I locked my hair. This is right after, and it was actually very uneven. You can't see the back. I should have cut my hair before I locked, but hey, you live and you learn. You can see that it doesn't have a lot of volume yet. And so during this time, I wore my hair up a lot. But I did end up needing to cut it because the ends were just too much. I was a little sad, but I mean, you go with it. You do what you need to. You can see the difference in the length between now and then. It's starting to grow back after I had to cut the back, and you can see it's much more even now looking at that video. And it's getting much fuller at this point. And so now we bring you back to where we are today, 3 years into the journey, and loving everything about the locks and the process that I have gone through this far. So my hair was really uneven starting this journey for 2 reasons. One, because it was kind of uneven in the back to begin with, but also as my locks matured, it changed the length of my locks. So as they were forming, they kind of shrunk on themselves, right? So I did lose a lot of length going into it, and then what was already uneven became even more uneven. So I was just really grateful that I took the steps I did and did cut my hair, because now it's just come such a long way. I lost about 7 locks in the first 3 years, and I say lost lightly because as soon as the root of my lock reestablished, I just reattached it to the lock, so they were never really lost. The other few I used as extensions in the back, so I didn't have to cut as much to make the back even. So you can use your own locks as extensions, and I have a video about that if you all are curious as well. I was also told that lint would be a really big issue for my locks, and you know, lint hasn't really been an issue. I think it's because I run my hands through my hair every day. Of course, every now and then you get little pieces of lint, and you just try to take them out as soon as you can so they don't get embedded in your locks. With tiny locks, it can be kind of hard to get the lint out if it's embedded. So I just want to make that note. If you see lint in your locks, just get rid of it right away, because you don't want it to become embedded, and then you're going to end up needing a needle or something very tiny to try and pick out the lint that has gotten in your locks. And another little thing, I did test to see if color would take in my hair, so you might see a little bit of goldish red in my hair. I don't know if I'm gonna actually go in and do any additional color, but it was nice to see that my locks do take. If anything, I'll probably just be doing rinses, and I did see some sort of conditioner that lightens your hair. Not lightens, but it gives the illusion that your hair is lightened, because I don't really want to do too many chemicals in my hair. So once I get that treatment, that conditioner rinse that tints the color of your hair without using too many chemicals, I will do a review and let you all know how it looks. But that's pretty much it for the 3-year Lociversary video. I'm just showing you a little bit of the color and just how my locks look as they have formed over these last 3 years. I love this journey. I'm so grateful that you all have been following this journey with me. And I do have a really big video about the history, the science, the physics, and just the general function of our coily hair. So thank you all so much for bearing with me. It is a very intense project that I've been working on for like 2 years at this point. So pretty soon it'll be ready. I'm on the last chapter, and I can't wait to share that all with you. So please let me know your conditioner and shampoo suggestions in the comment section. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there are any videos that you would like to see from me, and I will be back and consistent with more videos as soon as I finish the documentary that I'm working on for you all. Love you guys so much. Take care.